Good morning. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani design PD-1672. This watch is available from AliExpress from Pagani Design official store for €119. So this watch is available in two colour options, the black dial and the blue dial that you're looking at here, and I'm going to be reviewing both pieces in this review. So firstly, let's look at the box that the PD-1672 comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the PD-1672 comes in a watch box which is protected by this white cardboard outer sleeve which one removes, and this is the watch box itself. Now, as you can see, this is a notable upgrade to the black cardboard watch box that Pagani Design watches usually come in, and I think Pagani Design deserve full credit for upgrading the watch box. It really is an indication of the positive direction that the brand is going in, trying to constantly improve both their watches and also the packaging that the watches come in without significantly increasing the price of their watches. So it's made from black plastic, which is vinyl coated with PU leather, and as you can see, the interior is fully upholstered in a very aesthetically pleasing cream velour fabric. And the watch itself sits on a padded pillow cushion, as one would expect, and really it's not far off Rolex quality. This is very similar to the padded pillow cushion that my Rolex Submariner Date sits on in the watch box. So really it's a low tier piece at only €119, but one is getting a watch box which isn't far off a Rolex watch box. Yes, it's not made from wood, but it is coated in a very similar vinyl PU leather, so really, I think it's €119. It's outstanding that they have upgraded from a cardboard watch box to this kind of watch box. Now, with regards to the other items, one gets a owner's instruction manual. It is basic, but it does suffice in explaining the operation of the Seiko NH35A automatic movement. It details the setting of the time, the date complication, and also the hand winding and hacking complications. It also details the terms and conditions of the 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. This also comes with a watch. It's a Pagani Design microfiber polishing cloth, and it's always nice to see a branded microfiber polishing cloth included with a watch, irrespective of the price point of the watch. And you also get this Pagani Design plastic tag which has the brand logo embossed in silver. And lastly, you also get a Pagani Design guarantee card in plastic that you'll all be familiar with from my previous reviews. So with regards to the specification of the piece, this is the PD-1672. Now it's a 42mm case diameter, it has a 48mm lug-to-lug measurement, and it has a thickness of 14.7mm, including the domed sapphire crystal. The lug width is 20mm and the weight of the piece is 107 grams. So bearing in mind that this is a stainless steel piece on a silicone rubber strap, it is a very heavy piece. 107 grams really will give you wrist presence because it's a 42mm diameter, but also it has a lot of heft. So I would straight away say to you, if you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you may find the 42mm case and 14.7mm thickness to be too much wrist presence and too much heft to wear on the wrist for long periods of time. However, if you're a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, I would say that you will enjoy the wrist presence and heft of having a heavy 107 gram piece on the wrist. Now, the silicone rubber strap is incredibly comfortable. 20mm gives a good proportion. It's a nice balance to the 42mm head of the piece. One thing I really like about the case shape is the nice slender taper of the lugs and the flanks of the case. So it's really deceptive. Although it's 42mm, it does look visually more like a 40mm case due to them using those tapered lugs and also having a 20mm rather than 22mm lug width. So with regards to the rest of the specification, the watch is covered by a 12-month international warranty, which is very reassuring. Now, it has a domed sapphire crystal, but however, the negative to this domed sapphire crystal, which is very aesthetically pleasing, is that it doesn't have anti-reflective coating on the underside. So as you can see, when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, the domed sapphire crystal is highly reflective, and that applies to both the blue sunburst style version and also this black sunburst style version. As you can see, it's highly reflective. One thing I really like about it is the applied indices, the perfect symmetry of the indices. They're the same size all the way around the dial. with the exception of the triangle at the 12 o'clock index, which really does give good orientation. Also, it's notable that the date complication isn't framed. It has a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals, so it's clearly legible. However, I have to give criticism to the hands. They are undersized. Yes, the patina lume, which is C3 Luminova, is aesthetically pleasing. It does provide a nice contrast to the matte black dial. But the problem is the hands are undersized, particularly the hour hand. If you look at the arrowhead hour hand, it really needs to be scaled up in proportion, as does the second hand. I think that they should have made the hands larger to better balance the applied indices. But having said that, I think Pagani Design deserve full credit for not creating an homage to the Seamaster, as is the case with the PD-1667, or an homage to the Submariner date, which is the PD-1661. This is a completely original design. Every aspect of it, the case, the bezel insert, the dial layout, the hands, they're all unique to Pagani Design. This isn't an homage to any other watch. So I like the fact that they have improved the watch box, and they've also come up with their own original design rather than producing another homage to a well-known watch. With regards to the bezel, it is a gear cut profile rather than coin edge finish. Brushed satin finish throughout, and the solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel has a light bezel action. Now the interesting thing is it has a 60 click unidirectional bezel rather than 120 click. Personally, I would have preferred to see a 120 click unidirectional bezel rather than 60 click. Early versions of dive pieces from the 1980s, for example, often use 60 click bezels, and then contemporary dive watches that we're familiar with today use 120 clicks. And I actually prefer the feeling, the bezel execution of a 120 click bezel. In terms of the action, it's light resistance, as I've discussed. There's no lateral side-to-side play, which is positive. However, the negative is there is back play in the bezel, as you can see. I would describe the back play as one click of back play. And that's a disappointment. I really would prefer to see an improvement on the bezel action. They can get it right. For example, I've recently reviewed the PD-1661 Kermit, and that had a very good bezel action. So Pagani Design are capable of making good bezel actions, but unfortunately on the PD-1667, which is the Seamaster homage I recently reviewed, that had backplay, and this does have similar backplay to it. And I'm just going to test the bezel action on the black version to confirm it is a problem with this PD-1672 model. So similar light resistance to the 60 clicks. Now the 60 click mechanism, it does feel consistent all the way around. It doesn't get tight and loose. It is consistently light all the way through those 60 clicks. So that is good. But same one click of bezel backlash all the way around the bezel. So that is unacceptable. It really is something that needs to be improved. Having said that, the positive is the triangle on the ceramic bezel insert does align correctly with the index on the dial, the triangle. So there's no alignment issue, no lateral side-to-side play. It's simply the back play is the thing that needs to be improved upon. With regards to the execution of the ceramic bezel insert itself, it is finished to a very high standard. Very nicely executed minute ticks, and also the engraved Arabic numerals on the ceramic bezel are done to a high standard, so I do like it. Very aesthetically pleasing piece. With regards to the case finishing, it's flawless throughout. Concentric brushed satin finish to the top side of the case, brushed satin finish to the flanks of the case, which is done to a flawless finish, and brushed satin finish which is concentric on the underside of the case. So it does give a real tool watch aesthetic, which is also complemented by the use of a gear cut bezel profile rather than a finer coin edge finish. The crown is a screw down crown which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance. Gear cut profile to the crown rather than coin edge finished, signed with the Pagani Design brand emblem as one would expect. The execution of the crown in terms of its action is superb. It's silky smooth. The interface of the threading on the internal thread on the crown and the external thread of the crown tube is silky smooth. No problem with the thread pickup. It screws down and unscrews to a very satisfying standard. So I really like the look of the crown, and also it's very grippy due to that gear cut profile to it. And I like the way the gear cut profile matches the gear cut profile of the brushed satin finish stainless steel bezel. So good looking piece, and I particularly like the sunburst blue finish to the dial, which does add interest to this dial. As you can see, the sunburst finish changes colour in the light. In low light conditions it looks navy blue, and in direct sunlight or bright light it changes to a more electric blue. And that contrasts beautifully with the applied indices, which are silver, and also the patina lume, which is C3 luminova. So very nice domed sapphire crystal, but it's just a shame it doesn't have AR coating on the underside. With regards to the strap, very soft silicone rubber, 2 sliding keepers, solid stainless steel buckle and tang, and as you can see the buckle is signed with the Pagani design brand emblem, so very well finished and also very aesthetically pleasing. One detail I like about the strap is there are 2 keeper dots, as you can see, either side, and that engages with the first keeper to keep it in position, and that's a notable feature that I haven't seen on other rubber straps. Often it's the case that keepers will have a slot in it which engages a key in the strap to prevent the keeper sliding about on the strap, but the use of those 2 dots either side actually works very well. It keeps that first keeper in position when one engages it into those 2 key slots. So I like it. I think it's a good design, and it's a clear indication that Pagani Design are making good attention to detail. Now the underside of the strap has also some reinforcement. As you can see, there are some webbing which makes the end of the strap thicker, and therefore it makes it stiffer and less likely to split and crack, and I think that's a notable feature. Really the quality of it is very good. Another thing I like about it is the use of quick release spring bars. Now there's no holes in the lugs, the flanks, so therefore one cannot use a spring bar tool to depress the spring bar when changing straps. So what they've done as an alternative to using drilled lugs is they've used quick release spring bars, and that's very good because it means that one doesn't need a tool to replace the strap if you want to change it. With regards to the case back, beautifully finished. I can see that this has been machined using a CNC lathe, concentric machine tool tip finishing. It's just absolutely beautiful. When one tilts the case back in the light, one can see the machining finishing. It's beautifully laser engraved with a specification, stainless steel, 100 meters water resistance, and it's glazed with a mineral crystal, and as you can see the Seiko NH35A automatic is clearly visible through the exhibition caseback. The screw down stainless steel caseback provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. Nice finishing to the concentric brushed satin finish to the underside of the case. So really the quality of the finishing is just absolutely beautiful. It's the kind of finishing one would expect to see on a mid-tier piece between 500 and 3,000 euro, rather than a low-tier piece costing only 119 euro. But having said that, I want to bring to your attention a flaw with regards to the quality control or the finishing of the case. On the tips of all 4 of the lugs, they have sharp points, and fortunately they don't catch the wrist when wearing it on the wrist because of the curved profile to the underside of the lugs. But however, there is room for improvements because really they need to be deburred to a better standard. And I've noticed this on both versions, both the black and also the blue version. They have the same 4 sharp points on the underside of the lugs. So the finishing of the case back throughout is exceptional in terms of the brushed satin finish is very aesthetically pleasing. There's no scratches or scuffs or flaws, but however they have these sharp points to the tips of the 4 lugs on the case, so that's something that needs to be improved upon. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how the watch fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now it's a very good looking piece, but I want to talk you through the comfort. This is a 42mm case. It does wear with wrist presence and it does wear with heft on the wrist. As I've discussed, it's 107 grams. But having said that, due to the 20mm rather than 22mm lug width, it is a very well balanced piece, and it's actually deceptive. It does give the feeling of a 40mm piece even though it is a larger 42mm diameter. The other benefit is it uses the perfect 48mm lug to lug measurement, so it wraps around the wrist very well, and I really do consider the 48mm lug to lug measurement to be the sweet spot for all wrist sizes. So regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you are going to find the 48mm lug to lug measurement perfect. Now, as you can see, I can engage the 3rd hole in the strap, which is good, but it's just a fraction too short for my 8-inch wrist. If the strap were just half an inch longer, it would suffice for my 8-inch wrist. So I would say if you're a collector with a 7 to 7.5 inch wrist, this will be no problem at all. But if you have a 8-inch wrist, you're going to find the strap slightly too short. But for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, this is going to be no problem at all. Very comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, and it's deceptive, as I said. Really it does feel like a 40mm, and although it's a heavy piece at 107 grams, due to the comfort of the soft and supple silicone rubber strap, it is a very comfortable piece to wear. I'll also give you a wrist shot of the blue version just so you can compare it. Personally, my favourite is the blue version due to the blue sunburst style. I absolutely love the way it changes in the light. So there we go, I can just engage the third hole in the strap again, and as you can see, the domed sapphire crystal is just an absolute delight to look at. I love the characteristic distortion one gets when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle. Yes, it doesn't have AR coating, but it's just absolutely lovely to see that domed sapphire crystal distort, and it just adds interest to the dial. The blue sunburst style is just gorgeous the way it changes colour in the light, and they've done a very good colour match with the blue ceramic. It matches the colour tone of the blue sunburst style to perfection. Very well executed, and I also like the gear cut profile and the brushed satin finish of the case throughout. Nice mirror polished bevel which marks the transition between the top side of the case and the flank. Just has a real vintage aesthetic to it, and I think they've done a good job in coming up with an original design. So let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to its absolute maximum. So this watch uses C3 Luminova, and C3 is one of my personal favourites because of the green tone. It gives the aesthetic of tritium, which is now discontinued. It's now obsolete due to its radioactivity. After tritium came Luminova, and then after Luminova, Super Luminova. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, the lume has not disappointed. I think Pagani Design deserve full credit for upgrading the quality of the C3 Luminova used on this watch. This is clearly more powerful lume. It is emitting brighter and glowing for a better length of time than on previous Pagani Design models such as the PD-1671, which I reviewed. The lume is definitely better. Now, having said that, as I've discussed, the hands are undersized. As you can see, there isn't enough size on the hands to apply several layers of C3 Luminova to the hands, and really the disappointing aspect is the hands are too small. But having said that, the applied indices have a good thick layer of C3 Luminova, and as you can see, they are glowing very brightly. They're continuing to glow very well. Legibility is good, and I would describe the lume, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece, as being excellent. So I'm just going to charge up the blue version and confirm that it's the same on both watches. Sorry, charge up the black version rather. Right, so that's now fully charged, and exactly the same C3 Luminova used on both the blue dial and black dial version respectively. Glowing brightly initially and continuing to glow for a good length of time. So bearing in mind that this is C3 Luminova, it's not Super Luminova, the performance is good. It's not as good as Seiko Lumibright or BGW9, but that is to be expected. But I think it's good, and I think it is improved upon the blue lume that they're using on the PD-1671, for example. So that's a surprise. I wasn't expecting the lume to perform as well, but it does. Now, in daylight, it has a nice patina tone to the C3, which contrasts beautifully to the black dial, and also it contrasts beautifully with the blue dial version. So I think they've made the right decision using patina lume to give it a vintage aesthetic rather than using white on the applied indices and the hands. They just need to scale up the proportion of the hands to further enhance the piece. So lastly, I'll talk about the movement. You will all be familiar with this, the Seiko NH35A Automatic. Very popular piece very popular movement used by Pagani Design in several of their watches, including the PD-1661 and the PD-1667, which I've previously reviewed. So it's made in Japan and it has 24 joules. 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. The negative of it being a 3 Hz movement is, as I've previously discussed in reviews, it has a slight stutter or judder to the second hand. As you can see, it doesn't sweep as smoothly as a 4 Hz movement running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. But however, that is a characteristic of Seiko movements such as the NH35A running at 3 Hz. Good, reliable, solid, well-proven workhorse movement. It has hand binding and hacking, which are useful functions, and it has a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds per day. Now, I've checked the accuracy of these two pieces, and I'm pleased to report that this one is running at +7 seconds per day, which is outstanding, and this one is running at +12 seconds per day. And I think that's very good. This is a low tier piece costing only €119, and to get that kind of accuracy really is perfectly acceptable. 40-hour power reserve is very good. Hand binding and hacking is also very good. So lastly, I will surmise the piece. What do I think of the watch overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. The watch should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So the respective price point of the PD-1672 is €119. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value. There are some shortcomings. The bezel action could be improved upon. I would prefer to see it 120 clicks rather than 60 clicks, and I would prefer to see less backplay. I also think the hands could be further improved if the proportions were scaled up. But having said that, the performance of the C3 Luminova is better than previous Pagani design models such as the PD-1661. So they are moving in the right direction. They are trying to make improvements. The watch box is definitely an improvement. Now, lastly, I will say the only other thing that really needs to be improved are the 4 sharp points on the underside of the lugs. All 4 lugs have sharp points to the tips. That really is inexcusable and it needs to be improved. But having said that, I think overall the watch is a very good looking piece. It's a very comfortable piece to wear, and I think at €119 it's a very good watch. The build quality, the quality control, and also the finishing throughout is very good, with the exception of the 4 sharp points and the backplate on the bezel. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I'm going to declare this watch a champagne watch for lemonade money. I think it is a lovely looking watch, and I absolutely love the blue Sunburst R version. I think it is just gorgeous looking. So I hope you've liked my review of the Pagani design PD-1672. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.